In the land of Mwasi lived Oluchi, a 16-year-old girl who was sexually harassed on her way back from the village stream. She became pregnant and was treated as an outcast because it was a taboo in Mwasi to have a child without a husband. Her brother, who should have stood by her, turned his back on her after she refused aborting the child. She said, "Why terminate the life of an innocent child who didn't commit any atrocity?" Because of this, her brother and his mannerless children began to treat her badly. They called her all sorts of names and made sure she had little or nothing to eat. She ran out of the house, and luckily for her, she was taken in by a woman called Nkoli. Oluchi gave in to deep thoughts that made her develop high blood pressure. She only survived few weeks after giving birth to a daughter called Ugoma. Before she died, she made Nkoli make a promise to her to always protect Ugoma, her daughter. Ugoma grew into a beautiful girl and was a happy hand to Nkoli since she became 4, and she was always visiting her. Nkoli's son, an only child, Lucas, stayed outside the village, and the villagers thought something was wrong with him. She treated Ugoma as she would have treated her daughter if she had one. Nkoli's husband, Ezekiel, had been telling their son Lucas that he needs to pick a wife, but Lucas was not showing any interest because he was a playboy and was not in any way ready to leave the streets. His parents were fully aware and didn't want him to contract any sexually transmitted disease because he was their only child, and if anything happens to him, they were not going to survive it at all. One day, Ezekiel brought up this topic of Lucas getting married to Ugoma, and Nkoli bought it. Ugoma was not only beautiful with nice body structure, but she was also a wife material. Her uncle refused bluntly to give his children good home training. 3 grown-up girls that will one day go into a man's house as wives, but yet they can't cook or even do any house chores. And when their father has been asked, he will say his girls don't need to do much because they will get married someday to rich men. Ezekiel went to Ugoma's uncle to tell him that someone was asking for Ugoma's hand in marriage. And when Ugoma's uncle asked who, Ezekiel said, "Lucas." And he accepted without any hesitation because everybody in the village has always thought that he was abnormal. Nkoli and her husband lied to Lucas that they were not feeling fine and they needed to see him immediately. This was just a bait to bring him back home and get married to Ugoma. They were so sure that since he likes women, Ugoma will not be exempted because she was a very beautiful girl. Preparation started. Nkoli went to the market and got stuffs to prepare her son's favorite meal because they know Lucas would definitely come as long as they told him that they were sick. Ugoma went to the farm to uproot cassava, and as soon as she came back, she greeted, "Nne, good afternoon," and a smile appeared on Nkoli's face and she responded, "Good afternoon, Woma. How are you doing?" And Ugoma responded positively. They started peeling the cassava, and Ugoma said, "Hey, Nne, I heard my uncle's children mocking me, saying Papa came to ask for my hand in marriage for your son that is abnormal. Is that true?" Ugoma asked this, wearing a smile on her face. I guess she was happy to leave her uncle's house finally. Nkoli said, "Yes, it is true, but my son is not abnormal. See, I beg you in the name of God, don't let anyone, including your uncle's children, know he is not abnormal. Whenever they mock you, just tell them at least you're getting married before them all." "Okay, Mama," Ugoma said, blushing, and Nkoli pinched her cheek playfully, making her blush even harder. Somewhere in the city, Lucas called his friend. He said, "Hey dude, I won't be able to meet up with you guys today and tomorrow." And his friends asked, "Why, man?" My mom and dad called me that they are both sick and my attention is needed in the village. His friend said, okay dude, I got you covered. Wow, today is gonna be boring, I swear. And Lucas said, I know, right? And he hung up the call. He drove down and with the help of Google Map, he was able to locate his village. A big shame, I must say. When he got to the heart of Nwasi, he saw a young lady around his age. He stopped just to ask for direction to his father's house. Excuse me, young lady. Please, can you direct me to Mr. Ezekiel Okafor's compound? The lady started blushing, and Lucas thought within himself, what's wrong with this ugly thing? And the lady said to him, you are the right track. Just keep going straight. You will get to a junction, take your left, and the first compound you will see is his. When she was done, Lucas smiled, brought out a bundle of 500 naira notes and handed it over to her. He didn't wait for her to say thank you at least before zooming off. In no time, he was already at his father's compound, but to his ultimate surprise, his father was sitting pretty outside the house, and after exchanging pleasantries, he got to the kitchen, only to see his mother and a very beautiful girl. And as someone who likes girls, he couldn't resist her beauty. And when I say Ugoma is beautiful, I mean every bit of it. He kept staring until his mom cleared her throat. Such a killer of joy, Lucas thought. And he said, Mom, I thought you both said you were sick. And uncally his mother said, I'm sorry, son, but we tricked you into coming home. Since you don't want to get a wife for yourself, your father and I decided to help you. Lucas was short of words, and he said, Mom, I don't get you at all. Uncle called his name in full. Lucas Okafor. This is Ugoma, your wife-to-be. And Ugoma, this is my son Lucas, your husband-to-be. Lucas wasn't angry because Ugoma was such a beauty goddess. He was just shocked because he never knew his parents can be such a bad axe. All this while, Ugoma never said a word. And when she finally did, she said, welcome, with her head bowed. Lucas just smiled and started making his way back into the house. His mom spoke up. Nna, get ready because the introduction is tomorrow. And Lucas thought within himself, oh God, what will happen to all those city bitches? I swear, this girl is gonna suffer in my hands. She is extremely beautiful, yes, but she's not my class. He looked at her pretty face one more time and then walked into the house, and his mom followed right behind him. She said, Nwokoma, go and have your bath while I serve your favorite food. Lucas smiled. This woman sure knows a way of bribing me. He rushed into his room, took his bath, saying, I can't wait to enjoy my egusi soup and fufu. Chai, I have missed Momsi's food. One of Ugoma's cousins, Chidera, decided to take a little walk since that bastard child had left the house without cooking anything. Speaking to herself, she said, when Papa told me she was getting married, I got really angry. But when he told me it was Mr. Okafor's abnormal son, I became so happy. But still, I am wondering how we are going to cope without her in the house. When school resumes, my younger sisters will go back to Enugu where they are schooling, leaving only me at home. I can't clean or cook. Maybe I should just simply tell my father to get a maid. I just can't wait for tomorrow being the introduction so I will mock her the more. Since her abnormal husband is coming, I just pray he disgraces her. But who was that handsome man that stopped me to ask for direction to Mr. Ezekiel's compound? With the way he speaks, I think he's so learned. And to think that he gave me lots of money. And just before I could say, what is your name, sir? And what are you doing in Mercy? He zoomed off. My heart has been beating fast because of that young guy. I think I am in love with him. Oh God, please make us to see again. I think I have finally gotten myself a husband. I can't wait to boast about it in front of that bastard Ugoma. She walked back home, grinding back to back, saying, I am getting married too. The day for the introduction came. Mr. Ezekiel had butterflies in his bellies. With his chewing stick, he said, I have always been a lover of children, but my wife had issues with giving birth, and that's why we have only one son. And when I told him to get a wife for himself, that boy refused with an excuse that he is still young. But we have proven to him that we are wiser than he is. Ugoma, we did make a good wife for my son. Ugoma and her part had thoughts going wide. What if he doesn't like me? What if staying with him would be worse than staying at my uncle's house? She shook away the negative thoughts from her head and continued with what she was doing. She had her bath, wore a simple dress, dished out food, and she ate. While she was eating, she noticed that someone was watching over her, but she looked around. She saw no one. She quickly finished her food, went to the kitchen, washed the plates, and sat pretty well waiting for her visitors. Chidera and her siblings made a plan on making jest of Ugoma just to ruin her day. They met her sitting, and Chidera said, Who do we have here? The wife of an abnormal man. Ugoma smiled because Lucas that she saw is one of the handsome men in the village, and the most handsome if someone is being permitted to choose because of his heavy pockets. And she responded, At least I am getting married. But what about you, Chidera? Chidera laughed out loud and said, Now let me burst your bubbles. I have found a husband, and don't worry, very, very soon you will swallow that question of yours. For now, let's save our energy till our visitors arrive. The whole place soon became crowded by people. The whole villagers wanted to see Uncole's abnormal son because it's been decades since he left the village. Chidera and her sisters got dressed in their best outfits and walked into Ugoma's room, and their mouths dropped. She was wearing a very colorful dress. The dress was given to her by her soon-to-become mother-in-law. Chidera and her sisters walked out of the room angrily because they weren't expecting her to look that good. After a while of waiting, different kinds of cars drove into the compound, and the villagers were in awe. Chidera saw the type of car her Prince Charming drove that day, and she stood wanting to know who will come out. The door opened, Lucas came out, and immediately Chidera saw him. She was perplexed. Her heart skipped, and she asked, Or did he come for me? She immediately adjusted her dress. Lucas went to the other side of the door, opened it, and his parents came out. What's going on? Chidera asked again. He didn't even look at me. She told her sisters, That's the guy I've been talking about. They were all shocked as well. Mr. Ezekiel cleared his throat and said to Ugoma's uncle, My brother, this is my son Lucas, and we are here with our kinsmen to ask for Ugoma's hand in marriage. Immediately he said this, everyone grasped in great shock. But how? We all thought you had an abnormal son. But who spread this malicious rumor in this village? Ugoma's uncle, after a while, replied, This is the marriage list. No more, no less, handing over a fake list that is very expensive. Mr. Ezekiel gave the list to his son, and Lucas smiled and nodded, dropping every dime without feeling it in any way. After a while, the whole marriage payment had been made, and Chidera was still praying silently for Lucas to at least look at her. But that prayer was never answered. Instead, Lucas kept stealing glance at Ugoma, and this made Chidera jealous. Lucas now made her more jealous by saying, "Excuse me, sir. Since the whole marriage payment has been made, I will be taking my wife with me to the city tomorrow as I'm a very busy person." Ugoma's uncle nodded. With the way he behaved, even a blind man would tell that he wasn't happy. Lucas continued, "I will come pick her up in the morning." He said this smiling at Ugoma, and she returned the smile as well. Mr. Ezekiel and Lucas went home, but Nkoli was still around. According to the tradition, she had to entertain the women. Ugoma was feeling so happy. At least she was leaving her uncle's house, pata, even though she doesn't know what awaits her in Lucas's house in the city. But one thing was certain, it can't be more than what she has suffered in the hands of her uncle and his children since she was born. It was only her uncle's wife that treated her well, not until she died when she was 3 years old. And that was the exact year life became a living hell. Nkoli has been like an angel, according to what she promised late Oluchi, Ugoma's mother. And that's why she was very happy to finally become Nkoli's daughter-in-law. She looked towards her uncle's direction. Their eyes met, and she quickly looked away because the looks in his face spelt jealousy and hatred. But nobody cares anyways. Ugoma prayed to be sent to the higher institution by Lucas as she hoped to study law, simply because her whole life has been a disaster. Firstly, her mother was a victim of rape, and then she a victim of child abuse. But wait, what was that mad girl Chidera doing? Notice me, Akwaya. I even saw when she pulled her dress up. I am going to show her pepper today. I am ready for judgment this last day that I have here. Few hours later, the compound was already empty, except for few women that are related to Nkoli. Ugoma helped in the washing of plates, and after a few minutes, they were done and they all left. She smiled when she remembered she pulled the crowd that gathered for the first time in her uncle's house and got turning their counsel to foolishness because they thought she was getting married to an abnormal man. And her uncle did everything within his power to ensure she gets married where she will suffer and die, not knowing she was destined to get married to a rich, handsome guy. She picked up a broom and started sweeping the compound. She said, "I am not doing any other thing today. No cooking, nothing. I want my uncle to ask his grown-up girls, his good-for-nothing daughters, to prepare his food or die of hunger." Her uncle was just sitting, trying to comprehend the whole thing that was happening right under his nose. He said, "I thought marrying Ugoma to Mr. Ezekiel's son would make life difficult, but instead, I pushed her into good hands. The bride price has been paid, and I can't do anything now more than a dead rat. If there is a way to make that handsome-looking young man marry my daughter Chidera, I would have done it. Well, the remaining hours she have in this house will be nothing short of hell experience until tomorrow when her husband will come take her." "Ugoma! Ugoma!" he called, and Ugoma answered from where she was sweeping. And after a little while, she came in, and for the first time, her uncle asked within himself, "But what has this girl done to me to make me hate her this much?" He suppressed that thought and asked her to go to the kitchen and prepare something for him to eat. To his surprise, Ugoma chuckled softly. "I am sorry, Papa, but you have to tell Chidera or someone else to prepare your food because I have to prepare for my trip to the city tomorrow." She walked out immediately she was done saying this. "Oh my God," her uncle said. "I am so hungry and my daughters can't cook. Of course I can't do anything to hurt her because her father-in-law warned me. But wait, how am I going to cope without Ugoma in this house?" Why didn't I think of this before marrying her out so fast? Chidera was so heartbroken. She asked, so Ugoma is now married while I am still very single in my father's house. She did not only just marry, but she got married to a rich, handsome bobo. I don't even know his name, but he is my Prince Charming, the guy that won my heart. But why is she so special? And why does everyone like her? I remember a long time ago when Nkoli was coming back from the farm and her dirty cutlass fell out from her basket. She begged me to help her with the cutlass, but I just finished fixing my nails, so I refused. And now, my Prince Charming, her son, is now married to Ugoma. She quietly went to the backyard, cried her eyes out for hours. Her stomach made a sound, and then she remembered she hasn't eaten anything. She walked into the kitchen to dish out food for herself, and to her surprise, she opened her empty pot. Don't tell me that stupid girl hasn't prepared food yet. She angrily walked into her room, only to meet Ugoma packing her clothes into a new bag. That alone almost made her cry. Bia Ugoma, why haven't you prepared food yet? She asked angrily, and Ugoma responded, oh, my darling. But as you can see, I am preparing for my trip to the city tomorrow. My husband Lucas said I should get ready in good time. She continued her packing. Chidera said in her mind, so my Prince Charming's name is Lucas. And she looked at Ugoma and asked, tell me you are not a witch. How can you just come out from somewhere and steal my husband? Ugoma zipped her bag and started laughing. She said, Ose husband. She started laughing the more. Yes, Ugoma, you stole my husband. This time, Ugoma ignored her completely and laid on her mat. Chidera couldn't take it any longer. She left Ugoma's room in tears and said, I will confront him tomorrow and tell him about my feelings towards him. Yes, I think that's the best thing to do. Chidera said our Ugoma stole her husband. What do you want Lucas to do to her tomorrow? Tell me in the comment section as we anticipate the part 2 of the story. Please like, share and subscribe. You can as well buy me a coffee. Thank you all, and until I bring the part 2 of the story, is a goodbye from here. God bless you.